We have a council of economic advisors. Couldn't they see our whole industrial base was disappearing? So what our government did was rationalize. They rationalized. We're going into a service economy. How many people have heard that? Well, okay, go fight this new war with our services. Yeah, it takes planes, it takes oil, it takes physical, it takes material things. So what they did, rather than be appalled at what was happening, we were losing our industrial base, they rationalized its disappearance. And then little by little, we developed this absolutely ludicrous claim. How many people have heard we have a consuming economy? It's the consumer that drives our economy. If that is not the most ridiculous proposition, consuming drives nothing. Anybody can consume. Any idiot can consume. What's the great trick about that? What is hard is producing. It's production that creates consumption. Nobody would talk about consuming unless there's production to consume. Let me give you a very simple example. A farmer wants to consume, but he didn't grow anything. What is he going to do? He has nothing to trade. Now, if he goes out and he prints 20 bushels of wheat, if he has 20 bushels of wheat, now he can consume because he can exchange what he produced. You know, in the internet, one of the news internet programs reported that some woman went into like a Home Depot that was going out of business, but apparently she didn't know it. And she wanted to pick out stuff for her kitchen. How this stuff gets in the newspapers, I don't know. Anyway, she wanted to pick out stuff for her kitchen. They tell her, lady, you know, we're going out of business. And she said, well, I wanted to fix my kitchen so I can help the economy. People really think that. They're helping the economy by fixing their kitchen. The way you help the economy is some inventor who thinks of a product that we may need. Someone who's going to risk going into business and creates employment. You can't spend yourself rich. And this idea that go out and buy something. We're going to help the economy. Consume more. If you get this book, you'll discover that it's savings and the creation of capital that moves. A man came in, bought 10 of these, only a couple of, he may be here. I think was it this gentleman? No. And he was a financial major in college. This will teach you more in economics in 1 hour than if you studied, even if you got a master's degree in most of our universities. Now, I mean that seriously. How many people have read this book? Now, in this book, I start with a society, Abel, Baker, and Charlie. They have no capital, have no savings, have no anything. Every day they jump in the water and they catch one fish, which they consume. So they consume everything they produce. There's no savings, there's no investment, and they're just living on a subsistence level. And then Abel decides he has visions of making a net. It will work. So in order to make the net, he has to give up eating for 1 day because he's not going to have time to catch that fish. So he makes the sacrifice and he builds a net and it works. But now he catches 2 fish a day. So now that he catches 2 fish a day, he doesn't have to work every day. He can start building his houses. He can start building things. And little by little, from that one piece of capital, society grows and grows. Well, I build the whole society, then certain calamities happen and society starts to collapse. And by this point, the new president of this society is called Franklin D. Actually, now look at this. So he calls in his economists. Franklin D. says, well, look, we got this crisis. Call in our economists. And now the economists come in and say, expand credit, lower taxes. And who are these economists? They're 2 parrots trained to say, lower taxes and expand credit. Now that's exactly what Alan Greenspan is saying, so we could substitute him, just get 2 parrots. See, when you say lower taxes, and why do they want to lower taxes? Because presumably lower taxes will put more spending in the hands of the public, so now they'll go out and spend. But some people correctly say that by removing taxes, they want to allow businessmen to deduct luncheons. Every time they say lower taxes, which will stimulate the economy, what are they saying? It was the taxes that impeded the economy. So in order to create the economy, Now, to prove that America has probably one of the worst economies in the world is that we're the world's biggest debtor nation. We owe more, the government owes more in debt. And the people of this country, our national debt is greater than the debt of all the other countries combined. Now, in 1943, when the Second World War broke out, we were still a major creditor nation. We were a creditor nation. How can you tell if a nation is successful? Well, if it produces more than it consumes. When it produces more than it consumes, it creates an extra credit, which you then you can invest in other countries. And then when the returns on those foreign investments come back, you have the people in that country share in what they produce and the returns on their foreign investments. So their standard of living goes up. Suppose you continually have a deficit like we've had, a trade deficit. Now, a trade deficit builds up and we have to pay interest on this deficit. So now the people have to always have less because now we got to pay interest on what we borrowed before. And last year our trade deficit went up 100 billion. The year before 100 billion was 340 billion last year. Now, only a couple of weeks ago, I heard on the news that they reported that America, you might have heard this too, American workers work longer than the workers of any other industrial country. Did you hear that? Okay, now ask yourself, how could we have a successful and a great economy if we work longer than the people in any other industrial nation? If we had a successful economy, we'd work fewer hours. They even said we work longer hours than the average Japanese worker. And, I think before the war, they probably work at least 6 days a week, if not 7. So, this great economy, we work longer than the workers of any other industrialized nation. Then they said, in Europe, it's not uncommon for their workers to have 4 and 6 weeks vacations. Did you hear? How many people ever had a 6-week vacation? I don't think, maybe I had a 2-week vacation somewhere. I don't even remember it. But certainly 4 weeks? And this is common. So, but not only do the Japanese work fewer hours, but their wives don't work. And they have longer life expectancies. Americans are the most gullible people I think that God ever created. They are told that they believe they have this great economy, even when they work longer than anybody else. They have no savings. They have to go around the world and see if they can get goods and services that they never produced. And they're told we have this great... Now, we used to have a great economy. We used to. I remember the days that if somebody had a watch that didn't work, you'd say, where was it made? In Japan? Oh, yeah, when the Second World War was over, you know how many automobile factories Does the word Plymouth mean anything to anybody? Have you seen a Plymouth lately? How about a Studebaker? Would you believe I had a DeSoto? You see the old Groucho Marx show? He was his sponsor. Look at we had Packard, that's the man who owns one. Packard, DeSoto, Terraplane, Hudson, American Motors, Studebaker. Where'd they all go? Disappeared. They're taxed out of existence and regulated out of existence. Probably when the war ended, Japan probably just was making grass cutters and motorcycles. We have a Council of Economic Advisors, which was created in 1946, right after the war. See, what was the maximum amount that we spent during the height of the Second World War with 10 million men under arms? 80 billion. 80 to 85. We didn't even hit 100 billion. Now they're saying, I heard this morning, the cost to clean up the debris in New York is about around 10 billion. And then to replace it is around 11 billion. So that destruction but there's a good side to this. That'll increase the gross national product by 21 billion. Now that's a ludicrous statistics. The American public has been taught to believe that gross national product is some significant figure. It merely shows you how hard it means nothing. Because the gross national product will go up by 21 billion and we have nothing more that we didn't have before. There's one thing that the gross national product doesn't put a dollar figure. What do you think the average American values more than anything else? Anybody want to? What does the average American value more than anything else? What? No, I'm talking about, no. See, you don't know, but I'm going to tell you. And the minute I tell you, you're going to agree. He values leisure. Well, he wants to retire. He wants to go to the beach. He wants to go fishing if he'd like to. He wants time off, right? But that doesn't have a dollar value. If we all took a 4-week vacation, the GNP would go down, even as we're enjoying ourselves, running around the beach, lying in a hammock, making love, playing with your kids. But the government wants you out there buying goods, buying and selling, trading. Why? Because why do you think everything is... People aren't trading now. All of a sudden they're watching television. So what's so terrible about that? Instead of going to the movie, they're watching television. Frankly, if they're not going to the movies, they got the money. So why is it important that we go out and spend our money? Because if we don't spend it, the government is not taxing anything. So the government is dying for they're dying of thirst. They got to get you out there spending. If you don't spend, they don't collect taxes. The mere fact that why should you have to spend? You know, my kids are grown up. I'm at the age where I don't have to buy anything for the rest of my life. You know, how many pairs of shoes do I need? I rarely buy anything anymore because I have all the personal things I'm ever going to need. Why is it important? After you accumulate a certain amount of stuff, you can stop buying. Well, but the government doesn't want that. They got to get out there buying.